everybody. Hello, good people. Thank you so much, I love you, my viewers. Thank you for those who are watching my videos. Thank you for those who are subscribing. I love you so much. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Keep on sharing, keep on commenting, keep on subscribing. If you have not become part of us, please welcome to the family and let's discuss. I discuss a lot of things on parenting, family issues with children and things like that. So please welcome to the family and be part of us. Today I want us to talk on breastfeeding versus birth control. Sometimes as women, when we want this natural birth control, we use breastfeeding as one of the methods to prevent having other pregnancies. But there we fail somewhere. Sometimes we fail to prevent pregnancies because of how wrong we do it. Breastfeeding, it's okay. It can act as a birth control, but you have to follow the procedures very correctly. And on that note, it is also not it is not applicable for all women because we are all different. There are some, after you've given birth, after 3 months you start seeing your periods. After 2 months you start seeing your periods. After 4 months you start seeing your periods. So it's not something that it's 100% sure can help in birth control, but to some women it can help. So if it has helped you, it's okay, you can go ahead and use it. But if it has not helped you, don't use it as 100% to have birth control using breastfeeding. But here are some tips that I want us to share. And always, for me, I share my personal experience. What can help you to have a birth control as breastfeeding, to use breastfeeding as your birth control method. First of all, once you want to use breastfeeding as your birth control, you should consider some of the following things. And the first thing is breastfeed exclusively. Hear me this well. Breastfeed exclusively. What I mean here is breastfeed as often as you can. It can be every after 3 hours, every after 4 hours during the day, and every after 5 hours at night, or every after 6 hours at night. But what you need is to breastfeed exclusively. And once you're breastfeeding exclusively, make sure that you don't mix up things. Sometimes you find that you're breastfeeding and you're giving your baby formula. This won't work for you as a birth control. You are breastfeeding and you're giving your baby maybe water, maybe something. You're supposed to breastfeed only, exclusively. You get me that? Exclusively breastfeeding. Once you're giving your baby your breast milk, make sure that it's only breast milk and you give it exclusively. So sometimes it can be hard because you find that maybe you're working, maybe you're doing other things, you cannot have that frequency on breastfeeding. So that one, it may not work as a birth control for you. The other thing, you find that you are pumping your milk won't help you to have a birth control as a method of breastfeeding to prevent from getting pregnant. Your baby is supposed to breastfeed by him or herself, not pumping. They say that when you pump, it doesn't help to reduce the hormones that will make you to become pregnant. So please, if you're breastfeeding exclusively and you want to use it as a birth control, don't pump. Make sure that your baby is suckling. The other tip that I want to give you, so that you can have breastfeeding as a birth control method, make sure that your baby has a strong suckling habit. There are some babies, they are weak in suckling. You find you are breastfeeding your baby but cannot suckle for so long, or cannot suckle milk, the whole milk out of you. So you find that the baby suckles just a short time and then the baby leaves. You cannot blame the baby because that's how some babies are. So even that one can prevent you from using breastfeeding as a birth control method. So find that if your baby is not very strong, is not a very strong breastfeeder, then you find that it won't work. So please make sure that you breastfeed exclusively. You have a baby who has got a strong suckling method. That one will help you, and breastfeed exclusively. And the other thing, the unfortunately part, this method may work shorter than 6 months. Sometimes it works for 6 months, but sometimes it is shorter than 6 months. So if you have used it as a birth control, it can last you 6 months only. Then after the 6 months, the 7 and continuing, that means you have to look for other method for having birth control if you want to use natural birth control. But you can look for other options. There are so many options, of which we'll discuss maybe in the next video. Other many options of using birth control. But today I wanted us to talk on breast milk versus birth control. So how do you coordinate these two? How can I breastfeed and then use my breastfeeding as my birth control? So those are the tips that I wanted us to share. First of all, you make sure that you breastfeed exclusively. That means every you breastfeed as often as possible, and make sure that when you are breastfeeding, you make sure that all the milk is out of you at that given time. You know, there are some parents who just breastfeed a little bit, then you just give up, and then you continue. Then you breastfeed for a short time, so the milk remains inside of you. It won't help you. But make sure that once you're breastfeeding, make sure that all the milk is out of you. You have given your baby. Then after 2 hours, you breastfeed again, all the milk is out of you. Then that will help you to control, to act as a birth control method. So please, mothers, if you want to use breastfeeding as a birth control method, you have to follow some of the procedures. Even sometimes you can talk to your gynecologist. You can ask, and they can explain to you more. Or you can search, and then you get more information if you want to use breastfeeding as your birth control. But for today, these are some of the tips I wanted to share with you. If you want to use breastfeeding as your birth control, there are some procedure, there are some tips that you have to follow in order, because sometimes you find that I've tried it and it's not working. Sometimes as women, we just think only breastfeeding it helps to help us in birth control, but it's not that true. That's not true. So make sure that you follow the procedure, you breastfeed exclusively, so that you can have a proper birth control method. But otherwise, if it's not working, because this is not 100% thing, use other method to have a birth control. But thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.